Hello and welcome to Point of View, where we give students a place to listen, learn, and lean in. I'm Alicia and today I'm here with
Jonah.
And Rahul.
We will be reviewing the newest Black Panther movie and exploring themes such as overcoming grief and tradition versus modernism. Warning, there will be spoilers. Your discretion is advised. I think we should start with what we were expecting from the movie. For example, I was expecting it to be kind of mid because the past few Marvel movies have been kind of mid. Like, I wasn't really super surprised, but obviously the visuals, it exceeded my expectations. I thought it was really good. The visuals, as always, were really good.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. One thing I gotta say is, I agree with you. This is easily the best MCU movie of this year. As what I kind of see is that they kind of tone down the comedy a lot here. So one thing I kind of noticed is that with a lot of the past MCU movies this year, they always try to have this forced sense of comedy.
Yeah.
But with this, one, they had to be a little more serious with this movie because it was it was kind of centralized around Chadwick Boseman's death or T'Challa's death, and I believe that that kind of helped make sure that the comedy was very natural and was kind of flowed every now and then.
Yeah, it wasn't a film that was aiming for comedy. It was a film that was aiming for the story of Shuri and the story and the memory of Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. And the way they used the comedy, they only gave it to characters that normally use comedy. Like, for example, Everett K. Ross and Valentina. They had some great moments. They were meant to have those comedic moments, but characters like Shuri maybe didn't have the comedic she had last time as Black Panther because they didn't want her to and she didn't need to for the story that she was going for.
I think a lot happened for her her to be really serious.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a good transition into the themes that we saw. For example, obviously with Chadwick Boseman, they had to somehow incorporate him into the story. So they started off with death, and then they basically just kept that theme of overcoming grief throughout the movie. Like, her mom had this ritual to help her move on, and she tried to cope by cooping herself up in the lab and trying to come up with new technology that will help her country. And
and just as she was overcoming the death of T'Challa, that's about the time that her mother died, so she had to overcome that. So Shuri went through a lot in this movie, and it really growed her as a character. Made me just like her a lot more because she was a lot more layered than she was before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, easy. I think that change was probably expected to her character, as she in the beginning of the movie, basically. Since Killmonger ended up burning down all of the heart-shaped herbs, and T'Challa happened to have an illness that could be cured by that herb, but there was no more. So Shuri tried to synthesize a synthetic heart-shaped herb, but the thing is, it was only I think 29% accurate, and it didn't really work. So I guess that Shuri herself, she took that failure to heart, and she always made sure to improve technology, and to always try to help it. And one thing, compared to last movie, in this movie there's a humongous change in her character. In the last movie she was very lighthearted,
it felt like she didn't really she respected tradition, but she obviously had a little bit of a rebellion toward it. But then this movie she definitely embraced it to encourage the modern.
Easy. Because I think towards the end, she kind of understands the meaning of the ritual that her mother was trying to,
Yeah. Going back to the heart-shaped herb, I think that symbolizes a lot of just the heart of just the characters in that film. Because since Killmonger burned that down, and not long after that is when the snap happened and everybody disappeared, and that sort of symbolized that their hearts were gone. And even towards the beginning of the film, when Chadwick passed away, or T'Challa passed away in the film, she never created that synthetic heart, so she never sort of had a full heart until she created it, and that's when she started to feel better and feel more like herself, and that's when she became Black Panther. So
I guess it's kind of she was made she was able to overcome that that grief that she experienced, and then through that grief she created a even deeper connection with her brother through
Yeah.
the Black Panther.
I also like how I think we should like also talk about the antagonist Namor.
Yeah.
Like I liked how they like. So usually with villains, obviously they always have like a sob story and stuff, and
Yeah.
you gain a respect for them. But him, like, while you did gain a respect for him, you also definitely like saw how he was like truly like evil, but also
Yeah.
where it came from.
Mhm.
Yeah, what was so scary about Namor is it seems so realistic how he could have those political views of just the
Yeah.
world and wanting to burn down the entire world just from where he came from.
Yeah.
It didn't feel very like surprising, like, oh, I want to burn down the whole world for nothing. It had reasons behind it, and they were very realistic reasons.
Yeah, and it is also interesting how you could see Shuri like empathize with him. A lot of
Mhm.
times you see like in Marvel movies you see the bad guy, the good person. It's like they see it's like, oh, I know what you're going through, but she was like, oh, I know what you're going through. Like
Yeah.
she knew, and it was
Yeah.
like she also lost like a lot of her family members, and it was just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like she just lost her whole family. Like that's
Yeah.
literally. It's like it's surprising that she didn't even turn into a villain.
I feel like Namor was the perfect villain for the story that they were making here, and just
Yeah.
for Wakanda Forever as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, because she could have been the villain, but she
Yeah.
wasn't. Like she there was also like the comparison between Namor and Shuri, like to show how similar they are.
Mhm.
And like you would expect Shuri to be like him, but like she's also still her own person.
Yeah.
And Namor kind of represents what she could have been if she just decided to fall into
If she
that.
pursued the path of it.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to talk about, vengeance in this story.
Yeah, vengeance.
Like, I think that, like, the aspect of, like, vengeance with Shuri not being able to save her brother, I think that was monumental in, like, how she was going to be in this movie. And same with Namor, too. Because, like, I think there's, like, a interesting sense of parallelism between Namor and Shuri, as they both pursue the path of vengeance, but one will go too far, in this case, Namor, and one will almost go too far, but will learn mercy with, like, Shuri towards, like, the end of the movie.
At the very end when she
Yeah.
has the chance to kill Namor.
Yeah.
And another thing that was so great during that, they played like a silent sort of just like the
every
pictures.
time
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman was mentioned,
Yeah.
there was always like silence, like
Yeah.
a moment of
Yeah.
silence.
Yeah.
And
they
I thought
had,
that
like,
was really
they had, like,
it was really respectful, and they were like creative with how they like were able to put it in.
Yeah. To add on to Chadwick Boseman's death, I really, really like how they wrote his death into the movie. As, like, the movie was not exactly centralized around his death, but, like, it was, like, a very, very, very
Yeah.
big thing.
Yeah,
in
it
this
was like
movie.
also respectful at the
Exactly,
same time.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I think there was also the cinematography. Like, if we go back to what we were saying about the heart-shaped herb, and like in the beginning of the movie, Shuri's desperation to save her brother,
Yeah.
and also just like other forms of desperation in the movie, like the camera was like really shaky and all that. I also noticed like when there was this one scene where what's the guy's name? The head of the
M'Baku.
M'Baku.
M'Baku, yeah.
And Shuri, when they were talking, like, I'm gonna be honest, like, I was so distracted by the camera just, like, moving and panning
Oh yeah,
while they
that
were
was
talking. Like,
yeah.
while I'm sure the conversation was really important, but, like, it was just really distracting. But also, other than that, like, they were still really creative with, like, what they did with the camera. And I think,
Very.
like, because they did that, it showed, like, it's moving. Like, the story was moving. Like, there was tension. That's why.
Yeah, and going back to cinematography, I thought this movie had one of the best cinematography, had some of the best cinematography out of any MCU film. Eternals had some great stuff, but especially underwater during Talokan and when Shuri was first introduced to that was just so magical.
Mhm.
And the song just behind it, the score was also fantastic for
Yeah.
this movie, and the cinematography was complemented very well by the score.
Mm-hmm. I think like they kind of like backed each other up, kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And to talk about adding on to the underwater state, I think that like the aspect of like like when Namor was about to be killed by Shuri, but she was like no, like but she held back. Like how does like do you guys remember when there was like flashes of like the underwater state here and there?
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
also flashes of Wakanda. So I really
Yeah,
like
yeah,
how like
the
they kind of like show that like even though one is on like the one land is on the surface and one land is like completely underwater, there's still a sense of similarity that they're both trying to fight for the same thing, kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I really like that aspect of it.
They had so many great parallels in this film.
Oh,
They had so many
yeah.
great ways of showing those parallels, like fire and
Mhm.
water. That was shown a lot, especially when Shuri was saying to the astral plane
Oh, yeah.
with Killmonger. Spoilers, that's a big spoiler
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, kind of a big
But
spoiler.
just when the fire was just coming down, sort of burning just the previous legacy and just remaking her.
yeah.
the new one.
Fire versus water. That was really, really creative.
Mhm.
I think what's also interesting is like the diversity.
Oh, yeah,
Like
easy.
Yeah.
they're both minorities.
Yeah.
And like obviously there are parallels there. And
Mhm.
it just shows that there are ways to like fight to have representation in. But yeah, the representation was really interesting.
yeah,
Like you
easy.
normally don't get like the Mayan culture.
Yeah.
And
Did-
yeah.
Yeah, they actually spoke ancient Mayan. That's how the underwater species
Yeah.
communicate to each other, and it was just the representation from Namor and just Mesoamerican culture was so great.
Yeah, that was
Oh, yeah,
another
easy,
really
yeah.
like fun, like what I really liked, the languages.
Mhm.
I remember watching Shang-Chi and
Oh.
like and also this like I keep talking about like the second Doctor Strange movie, but like those two like okay, I guess Shang-Chi was a little bit better about it. Like the Chinese was fine, but like it was definitely the second Doctor Strange movie. I don't know why that one was just like so it just like sticks out to me like why I don't like it so much because like it's fine if you're gonna speak Spanish, but if it's like unnaturally in there, like they're trying to force the
Yeah.
fact that you are ethnic, like it's unnatural. It doesn't that's not a right way to show
Yeah,
representation. But
easy.
this was just so natural. Like they were speaking their language and also like showing their culture without forcing it too much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the
it
person
felt kind of like natural with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. and the person that had to play Nakia, Lupita Nyong'o, she actually had to learn 4 new languages for this.
Oh,
yeah.
French.
Yeah.
Ancient Mayan, Spanish,
French.
and then Wakandan, I guess.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, there's also I think we should also talk about Ironheart, like what we think about
Oh.
her. I thought she was kind of useless to the plot.
Yeah.
But
kinda
obviously she was important for like the ultimatum that Namor made. It was like if Wakanda doesn't partner with us, like the science girl will die.
Mm.
And like that's just how they try to keep her in there.
Yeah.
And she was like good representation of people of color, like women of color in STEM.
Mhm.
But other than that, like she was obviously just there to set up like the next movie.
Yeah, to set up the plot. Yeah, easy. And also, well, one, obviously Marvel's trying to set up something for her. But
Yeah.
also, one thing I didn't really like about her is like her suit was kind of wonky. I
Oh
don't like
my
not
God,
like
her
the
suit
design
was
at
I
all.
thought
So-
her suit was fine.
They did her so dirty.
Yeah.
Like okay, in the comic books, the suit's really cool, right?
Yeah,
Okay, it could be that this is her first suit.
that is
She
true.
only had
No,
2 suits.
But her prototype, literally, like her prototype, where she first used it in that
Yeah.
like car garage, looked better than what she had at the end
Yeah.
of the movie. It literally looked like a cartoon character. Like
Mhm, yeah.
they did.
One
so
one thing I
good.
think they try to do is like they try to mimic like the whole certain aspects of Iron Man. Like for example, when he was in that cave in the Middle East, she was also in that cave underwater.
yeah.
and-
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
meant to
think-
parallel that.
Yeah, and I
Just-
think that would have been a personal like a very good like opportunity for her to like invent something like how Tony Stark did. But I guess I could be
Yeah.
looking at it the wrong way as this is not Tony Stark. This is Riri Williams, like a
Yeah.
Yeah,
different
she's
form of
yeah.
Iron. I guess so. Yeah.
I
Like,
really like how Marvel is using like minorities and POC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
easy,
I feel
yeah.
like the main point of Ironheart was to show the passing of the mantle from Iron Man to Ironheart, and that's been a big thing just throughout Phase 4, the passing of mantles.
Yeah.
Just making Sam the new Captain America, making
and
Tom
making
Holland
Kate
Spider-Man.
Bishop the
Kate
new,
Bishop, the
new Hawkeye.
Hawkeye, yeah. Just a big passing of mantles and just reforming something new. So I feel like that was her main point. She has a show coming out probably I think early 2024 or something
Yeah.
like that. So they were also trying to set her up for that.
Yeah, easy. I can see that. One other thing I really thought was interesting was that the like how Killmonger appeared in the ancestral plane instead of like Queen Ramonda, T'Challa, like all her all of Shuri's other like family members. I guess that the reason for that is because it showed that he started a new age, and she is also starting a new age. So I kind of think that they try to like establish that parallelism between Killmonger and Shuri there as well.
Yeah, and she had so much vengeance and so much like rage and pain at that moment that I guess Killmonger is like the living embodiment of that.
Yeah.
So that might have been another reason why.
Yeah.
Sure, her mind was just drawn to him instead of somebody else.
Yeah. One other thing I want to talk about is that the meaning of fire in this movie. That's like, I think it means like the idea of growing, of like getting rid of the past and like growing into something. Like for example, that one ritual in the beginning of the movie where Queen Ramonda burns like the funeral garments.
Yeah.
I think it's like her like shedding the past and like opening up to a new future. Same with when the ancestral plane got lit on fire. When basically that's saying like the old ways are over. It's now a new age that is coming. So that's what I kinda
but while
see.
also still like using what's in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
tell-
Yeah. It's like modernizing that tradition.
And water kind of representing that for the Telecons and Namor and him flooding down Wakanda in hopes of building something better for himself and his
Yeah,
empire.
yeah. It's a very interesting thing, fire and water in this movie. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
So the overall message of this movie, what do you guys think it is?
I think, well, one, obviously, it's like to mourn, to celebrate, not celebrate.
Overcoming grief.
Overcoming grief, obviously. Well, not, yeah. And also, like, finding a new way through grief.
Yeah. Just
And-
overcoming all that pain and just the
Yeah.
resilience and then just having the confidence to become something new and do something better that gets you out of that hole that you're in.
Yeah, yeah.
This concludes our discussion and review for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Thank you so much for listening. For a transcript of this episode, head to the Point of View tab on our website, nhsmessenger.org, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at NHS Point of View. I'm your host, Alicia Lee,
Jonah Chadwin.
And Rahul Dojade.
and this has been Point of View.